Hi everybody, this is Father Warner D'Souza. Our text today is taken from Luke chapter 19 verses 45 to 48. The first act of Jesus in the Gospel of Luke upon the completion of his journey to Jerusalem, which we read from chapter 9 verse 51 to chapter 19 verse 27, is to enter the temple and take possession of it. The temple was the place for true worship of God, for instruction on the meaning of God's will, and especially the place where God was present. The first act of Jesus on entering the temple is to cleanse it. The cleansing of the temple is found in all the four Gospels. The Lucan account is the briefest. Quoting from Isaiah chapter 56:7, Jesus is protesting the lack of prayer in what ought to be the ground zero of prayer. Like the prophets, he speaks on God's behalf and as God's own Son. He stands as a counter-witness to all that is against truth, love, and justice, and as such, inevitably incurs the anger and hostility of those who have power. John W. Everett once said, "Carnal men are content with the act of worship. They have no desire for communion with God." In today's text, we see how true this statement is and can feel the growing tension as Jesus forcefully challenges the way things were done in the holiest place of Judaism. It is so easy to lose sight of the real value of religion, of religious actions, of rituals, and sometimes ending up in shameful compromises. So what has got our gentle Jesus so riled up? This was Passover, the holiest and the most important Jewish festival, which means only one thing. There were pilgrims flocking to Jerusalem in droves. According to Exodus chapter 30 verses 11 to 16, every Israelite 20 years and above was required to pay an annual temple tax of half a shekel into the treasury of the sanctuary. Some scholars say this amount was equivalent to 2 days of a laborer's wage. Due to the enormity of the Roman Empire, many types of currencies were in circulation. Since only special temple coins were acceptable, money changers could charge a fee for the necessary exchange. Money changers could make handsome profits at the expense of the people. This exchange became a source of extortion for the high priest's family, who personally controlled it. In reality, it amounted to a public bazaar and was even nicknamed Annis's courtyard. A temple visit also involved a sacrifice. If a man brought his own animal, the temple authorities would inspect it for perfection. To make sure an animal passed inspection, many people bought their animal sacrifices at booths set up in the temple. However, these animal sellers often charged outrageous prices, thus making a high profit for themselves. The Greek word for temple, hieros, is the general term for the temple grounds as a whole. The vast complex was able to accommodate thousands of worshippers. Within this area, surrounded by an outer wall, were several inner courts, progressively smaller, with the innermost being the Holy of Holies, which were designated by a different word for temple, which was naos. The outer court was the court of the Gentiles, so named because Gentiles were forbidden to go any further on the pain of death. Inside the court of the Gentiles was the court of the women, which was as far as women were permitted to go. The court was entered by a gate known as the Beautiful Gate, which was a popular place for beggars. We see this in Acts chapter 3 verse 10. Men, however, could enter the next court, or the court of the Israelites, through Nicanor's gate, made of Corinthian bronze and so massive that it took 20 men to open and close it. From the court of the Israelites, the assembled worshippers could look through the doorway into the next courtyard, the court of the priests. Although they could not enter, they could watch the priests offering incense and sacrificing animals. In the rear of the court of the priests was the naos, or the sanctuary itself, that is, the Holy of Holies. The incident related to today's gospel took place in an area called the court of the Gentiles. Jesus' anger was not directed at the temple tax, for which he himself paid it willingly, lest we offend them, as he says, "Go to the sea, cast in a hook, and take the fish that comes up first, and when you have opened its mouth, you will find a piece of money. Take that and give it to them for me and for you." We read this in Matthew chapter 17, verses 24 to 27. Jesus' anger was directed really at the commercialism within the temple area that took advantage of the poor. "Do not make my Father's house into a house of merchandise." We read this in John chapter 2, verse 16. So, what is our takeaway? We never think of Jesus losing his temper, yet that is what he did when he entered the temple and saw it set up like a marketplace. Anger is not a bad thing, as some of us might believe. It is what we do with anger that can cause pain and upset others. Although he saw the contradictions there, Jesus chose the temple as the place to which he went to teach. Often congregants misplace their sense of anger on the place of worship and abandon worship because of what they see as contradictions. You see, contradictions abound everywhere, even in our place of work. We don't have the luxury to quit our workplace as easily as we do with the house of God. I hope these reflections help you. I hope these interpretations also help you to understand the Word of God more clearly. Have a blessed day. Thank you, and thank you for supporting our ministry each time you share these videos with your friends. And as I always say, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? God bless you.